Security! Remove this homeless woman before she contaminates our lobby! Documents scattered across white marble like fallen leaves. Hotel CEO Marcus Sterling stood over the mess, adjusting his Rolex, while 30 smartphone cameras captured every second. Amara Johnson didn't flinch. At 42, she'd learned that silence spoke louder than shouting. Her faded jeans and canvas sneakers marked her as an outsider in the Grand Meridian's gold-plated world. The live stream comments exploded. "Kick her out! Security fails! Call the police!" Sterling's voice echoed off crystal chandeliers. "This establishment serves distinguished clientele, not whatever you are." Amara methodically collected her papers. Each movement is deliberate, controlled. Have you ever been judged so harshly by your appearance that strangers demanded your removal from a public space? The digital clock above reception glowed red, 3:47 p.m. Amara's phone buzzed against her thigh. She glanced down, a text that made her lips curve slightly upward. Board meeting confirmed, 4 o'clock p.m. sharp. Location verified. Sterling stepped closer, his shadow falling across her seated form, 6'2" of corporate authority looming over her 5'4" frame. The power dynamic was deliberate, theatrical. "Did security let in every vagrant from the street today?" His voice carried across the marble expanse. "Those shoes belong in a shelter, not my lobby." A woman in Chanel whispered to her husband, "How embarrassing. Standards really have dropped." The live stream audience grew hungrier. Fashion blogger at Luxury Life. Manhattan held her phone steady, followers climbing past 1,200. Comments flooded the screen faster than she could read them. "OMG, security failed! She smells from here. Call police now!" Sterling's eyes gleamed with righteous indignation. He'd built his reputation on exclusivity. The Grand Meridian didn't just offer luxury, it offered separation from people like her. "Ma'am." His tone could freeze champagne. "This is a business establishment, not a soup kitchen. Please gather your belongings and leave." Amara continued organizing papers with surgical precision. A Delta first-class boarding pass slipped from her briefcase. Sterling's Italian loafers stepped over it without noticing. "I have business here," she said quietly. Sterling's laugh was sharp as breaking crystal. "Business? What kind of business could you possibly have here?" The hotel manager materialized, Jennifer Walsh, 35, Stanford MBA, perfectly pressed navy suit. She'd climbed corporate ladders by reading rooms quickly. This room screamed liability. "Sir," Walsh addressed Sterling while avoiding eye contact with Amara, "shall I call building security? We can't have disruptions during afternoon service." 3 security guards flanked them now. The head of security, Rodriguez, looked uncomfortable. 20 years NYPD had taught him to recognize when situations felt wrong. This felt very wrong. Amara checked her phone again. The government seal on her wallpaper was visible for exactly 1 second, just long enough for the most observant viewers to wonder. 3:52 p.m. "Wait for what?" Sterling's voice rose. "Your dealer? Your next handout?" Silence stretched like piano wire. Hotel guests formed a loose semicircle, phones raised like weapons. The live stream count hit 2,000, then 2,500. Amara's fingers found something in her wallet. A flash of gold caught the light gone before anyone could focus. But Walsh saw it. Her expression flickered. "I don't know what shelter you escaped from," Sterling continued, "but this establishment maintains standards. Real standards." A child tugged his mother's Hermes bag. "Mommy, why is that lady sitting there?" "Don't look, sweetie. Some people don't know where they belong." The cruelty was casual, practiced. Amara had witnessed it countless times, the way wealth weaponized discomfort, how privilege disguised prejudice as policy. Her phone buzzed again. DOJ conference call, 4:10 p.m. She typed a response, screen angled away from cameras. They're calling you in 3 minutes. The reply was immediate. Perfect. En route. Sterling pulled out his phone, scrolled through contacts. This has gone far enough. Jennifer, document everything. I'm escalating this to the proper authorities. Walsh fumbled for her tablet. Of course, Mr. Sterling. Should I call the NYPD? No. Sterling's smile was predatory. This looks like federal fraud. Fake documents, suspicious behavior. I'm calling the FBI directly. Amara's slight smile returned. She folded her hands in her lap and waited. 3:55 p.m. The security guards exchanged glances. Rodriguez had seen that look before, the calm that came before storms. His hand moved instinctively to his radio, but he hesitated. Something about the woman's posture suggested she wasn't the threat here. Sterling dialed information. FBI Field Office, Manhattan. I need to report suspicious activity. The connection crackled through the lobby's acoustics. Amara could hear both sides of the conversation. FBI Special Agent Davis. This is Marcus Sterling, CEO of Grand Meridian Hotels. I have a suspicious individual with what appears to be fake federal documents, possible impersonation of a federal agent. Location? Grand Meridian, Manhattan, main lobby. She's been here 20 minutes, refusing to leave, displaying fraudulent credentials. Description? Sterling's voice carried vicious satisfaction. Black female, approximately 40, dressed like a homeless individual, carrying official-looking documents that are obviously counterfeit. Units dispatched. Remain on scene. Sterling ended the call with theatrical flair. The crowd murmured approval. Justice was coming. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, FBI agents will arrive shortly to handle this situation professionally. You're about to witness federal law enforcement in action. Amara checked the time. 3:58 p.m. 2 minutes until everything changed. She gathered the last of her scattered papers, including a document stamped with official seals that no one had bothered to read carefully. The letterhead was partially visible. U.S. Department of... When the FBI gets here, Sterling declared, you're looking at 5 years in federal prison. Impersonating a federal agent is a serious felony. Amara looked up at him for the first time since he'd kicked her briefcase. Mr. Sterling, she said quietly, you're absolutely right about one thing. What's that? FBI agents take their work very seriously. 4 p.m. Exactly. The Grand Meridian's lobby had transformed into a digital coliseum. Phones pointed from every angle like modern gladiator weapons. The live stream audience swelled past 4,000 viewers, comments cascading faster than human eyes could follow. FBI coming? She's going to jail! Justice served! This is better than Netflix! Sterling paced behind the semicircle of onlookers, his confidence radiating like heat from summer pavement. This was his domain, his rules, his victory parade before the inevitable arrest. Every step was calculated theater, the CEO who'd saved his establishment from federal fraud. Manager Walsh positioned herself strategically, tablet recording everything for what she assumed would be evidence in a federal case. Her Stanford MBA hadn't prepared her for this level of drama, but it had taught her to document every detail that might become liability. How long until the FBI arrives? Whispered Mrs. Davidson, clutching her Birkin bag like armor. She'd been enjoying afternoon tea when the excitement began, and now she had front-row seats to federal justice. 10 minutes maximum, Sterling replied loudly enough for everyone to hear. Federal agents don't waste time on obvious criminals. This will be textbook law enforcement. Security guard Rodriguez checked his watch. 4:02 p.m. Something gnawed at his gut, that cop instinct that had kept him alive through 2 decades of NYPD patrol. The woman wasn't acting like someone facing arrest. She was acting like someone waiting for an appointment. Her posture was wrong. Her breathing was too steady. Her eyes held no fear. Amara's phone buzzed against her palm. She glanced at the screen, typed a quick response. Her thumbs moved with the casual efficiency of someone texting colleagues, not desperately calling lawyers or family members for help. The blogger at Luxury Life Manhattan zoomed her camera lens, adjusting angles for maximum dramatic effect. Her follower count had exploded 5,000 people watching live, sharing clips across every platform. This was her biggest break yet, the kind of viral content that launched careers. "Guys, this is absolutely incredible," she whispered to her phone, voice trembling with excitement. "The FBI is literally coming to arrest this woman who tried to fake being a federal agent. The sheer audacity is insane. Like, who does that?" 4:03 p.m. Sterling's phone rang with the sharp tone reserved for board members. Patricia Williams called from the corporate office in Chicago. "Marcus, I'm seeing social media posts about some major disturbance at your property. The legal team is asking questions." "Completely under control, Patricia. The FBI is handling a federal crime in progress. I'll brief you after the arrest, but this will demonstrate our unwavering commitment to security and legal standards." "Federal crime? Marcus, are you absolutely certain you're not overreacting? Sometimes these situations can be—" "Trust me on this one. I've got 30 witnesses, live stream evidence, and clear documentation of attempted federal impersonation. This will be a PR victory." Sterling ended the call with theatrical flair, his confidence infectious among the watching crowd. Several guests nodded approvingly at his decisive leadership. Walsh approached Sterling with her tablet, screen filled with timestamps and witness statements. "Sir, I have everything meticulously documented. Timestamps, witness statements, video evidence from multiple angles. The legal department is going to absolutely love this case." The crowd had grown substantially. Hotel guests delayed their departures to witness federal justice in action. A family with 2 children pressed against the marble pillars, the parents using the moment as an educational opportunity about consequences. "Daddy, why doesn't she just leave if she's in trouble?" asked 8-year-old Sophie, pointing at Amara with innocent curiosity. "Because some people think rules don't apply to them, sweetheart. But they always learn eventually," her father explained, voice carrying clear disapproval. Amara overheard the exchange but didn't react. Her phone buzzed again, another message that made her glance toward the lobby entrance with the faintest hint of anticipation. 4:04 p.m. Sterling seized the moment, stepping into the center of the semicircle like a prosecutor addressing a jury. His voice boomed across the marble expanse, carrying the authority of someone accustomed to commanding boardrooms. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand exactly what you're witnessing here today. This individual attempted to deceive us with what are obviously counterfeit federal credentials. She thought her fake badge would intimidate honest, law-abiding citizens." Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd like applause. Phones recorded Sterling's impromptu speech for social media posterity, creating dozens of angles of the same moral victory. "But we didn't cave to intimidation tactics. We didn't bow to fraudulent authority. We called the proper federal authorities. The FBI takes impersonation of federal agents very seriously. It's a felony carrying up to 5 years in federal prison." At Luxury Life. Manhattan's live stream comments exploded with righteous enthusiasm. "The CEO is a total hero. This is how you protect our spaces. Lock her up and throw away the key. Finally, someone with backbone. This is what real leadership looks like. She picked the wrong hotel." The viewer count climbed past 6,200. The hashtag #FakeFBI was trending across 3 platforms simultaneously, spreading beyond New York to national attention. Rodriguez radioed his security team with growing unease. "All units, federal agents inbound ETA for 4 minutes. Maintain perimeter, but do not interfere with arrest procedures. Let the FBI handle their jurisdiction." His team responded with professional acknowledgement, but privately, they shared his mounting discomfort. In 2 decades of law enforcement, Rodriguez had arrested hundreds of people. Guilty people ran, screamed, denied, or broke down crying. This woman was doing none of those things. She was simply waiting. 4:05 p.m. Sterling strutted closer to Amara's chair, his Italian leather shoes clicking against marble like a countdown timer. Each step was deliberate, designed to emphasize the power dynamic, the successful CEO towering over the defeated criminal. "Ma'am, when federal agents arrive in approximately 3 minutes, I strongly suggest complete and total cooperation. Any attempt to flee or resist will only result in additional federal charges being filed against you." Amara looked up at him with steady, unblinking eyes. "Mr. Sterling, I have absolutely no intention of fleeing." Smart choice. Because there's literally nowhere to run. Hotel security has all exits covered, and Manhattan FBI responds to federal crimes with overwhelming force. "I'm exactly where I need to be, Mr. Sterling." Something in her tone, calm, certain, almost amused, made Rodriguez step noticeably closer. That was the voice of someone completely in control, not someone cornered and desperate. His hand instinctively moved toward his radio. Walsh noticed the shift in atmosphere, too. She'd spent years reading people across high-stakes negotiation tables. This woman wasn't displaying fear, desperation, panic, or guilt. She was displaying patience, anticipation, almost like she was looking forward to what came next. The blogger's voice carried across the lobby with barely contained excitement. "Guys, she's so weirdly calm it's honestly creepy. Like she doesn't understand what's about to happen to her. Maybe she's having some kind of mental breakdown?" 4:06 p.m. Sterling checked his $50,000 Patek Philippe ostentatiously, making sure everyone could see his expensive timepiece. Any moment now. FBI response time in Manhattan averages exactly 7 minutes for federal crimes. They should be walking through those doors right about now. Amara's phone buzzed one final time. She glanced at the screen, and for the first time in 20 minutes, she smiled. Actually smiled. "Lobby entrance. 30 seconds out." She typed back with steady fingers. "Ready and waiting." "What exactly are you smiling about?" Sterling demanded, his voice sharp with sudden irritation. "This isn't remotely amusing. You're facing federal prison time." "Mr. Sterling," Amara said quietly, her voice carrying across the silent lobby, "you're absolutely right about one thing." "Which is what?" "FBI response times are remarkably consistent." The massive glass lobby doors opened with a soft, pneumatic hiss. 2 men in crisp, dark suits entered with the purposeful, measured stride that screamed federal law enforcement. Agent Williams, 45, 20-year FBI veteran with gray threading his temples and eyes that had seen everything. Agent Rodriguez, 38, compact build, sharp eyes that cataloged every detail in seconds. Sterling straightened his tie and approached them with the supreme confidence of a man who had just solved a federal crime and was about to be thanked for his civic duty. "Officers, thank you for responding so quickly and professionally." He pointed dramatically at Amara like a prosecutor indicating evidence. "There she is, the woman who's been impersonating a federal agent for the past 20 minutes. Both FBI agents stopped walking. Agent Williams froze mid-stride. Agent Rodriguez's expression shifted from professional alertness to something approaching shock. Both men looked at Amara sitting calmly in the lobby chair, surrounded by 30 hostile witnesses and dozens of recording devices, looking completely at peace with the world. Recognition dawned across their faces like sunrise breaking over mountains. The moment everything would change had arrived. 4:08 p.m. Exactly. "Sir," Agent Williams said carefully, his voice carrying 20 years of federal training, "can you please repeat exactly what you reported?" Sterling's chest swelled with righteous pride. This was his moment, the successful CEO who'd protected his establishment from federal fraud. "I said arrest that woman immediately. She's been impersonating an FBI agent for 20 minutes, trying to intimidate my guests and staff with obviously fake credentials. Agent Rodriguez stepped forward, his voice measured and deadly serious. Mr. Sterling, let me make sure I understand correctly. You called the Federal Bureau of Investigation to report someone impersonating an FBI agent? Exactly! Look at her! Sterling gestured wildly at Amara, his voice rising with indignation. Obviously homeless, clearly unstable, fake government documents trying to intimidate honest citizens with fraudulent federal authority. The lobby held its collective breath. 7,000 live stream viewers watched in real time as justice approached. The hashtag #FakeFBI exploded across social media platforms with the velocity of wildfire. Agent Williams approached Amara's chair with deliberate steps. His partner flanked him, both men moving with the synchronized precision of federal agents who'd worked together for years. What happened next would be replayed on social media for months. Both FBI agents stopped exactly 3 feet from Amara's chair. Both straightened to rigid military attention. Both raised their right hands in crisp, textbook-perfect salutes. Special Agent Johnson, Agent Williams said with unmistakable respect, his voice carrying across the marble expanse like a judge's gavel. Ma'am, we weren't notified you were conducting undercover operations at this location. The silence that followed was absolute. 7,000 people watching the live stream simultaneously stopped breathing. 30 witnesses in the lobby stood frozen like museum statues. Sterling's confident smile didn't just disappear, it disintegrated like sandcastles hit by tsunami waves. Wait! His voice cracked like ice breaking under pressure. What did you just say? Agent Rodriguez maintained his salute while addressing the crowd with federal authority. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in the presence of Senior FBI Special Agent Amara Johnson, Financial Crimes Division, 18 years of distinguished federal service. The live stream exploded. Holy shit, no way. She's a real FBI? CEO is fucked. This can't be happening. Plot twist of the century at Luxury Life. Manhattan's phone nearly slipped from her trembling hands. 8,000 viewers and climbing. This wasn't just viral content. This was internet history. Sterling stumbled backward, his Italian leather shoes sliding on marble. This is impossible. She's homeless. Look at her clothes, her appearance. This has to be some kind of mistake. Agent Williams lowered his salute but maintained formal posture. Sir, Agent Johnson is one of our most decorated undercover investigators. We've worked with her on multiple federal cases involving financial discrimination and civil rights violations. The words hit Sterling like physical blows. Financial discrimination, civil rights violations. The implications crashed over him in waves of growing horror. Amara stood slowly, her movement fluid and controlled. For the first time in 20 minutes, she commanded the room's attention not as a victim, but as federal authority. She reached into her weathered briefcase, the same briefcase Sterling had kicked across the floor, and withdrew her FBI credentials in a leather wallet that had seen years of federal service. The badge caught lobby lights like a mirror reflecting truth. Mr. Sterling, her voice carried a quiet power that made boardrooms tremble. Thank you for calling my colleagues. Agent Williams, Agent Rodriguez, I'm conducting an authorized undercover investigation into systematic civil rights violations at this establishment. Sterling's face drained of color until he resembled expensive marble. This can't be real. I demand verification. Anyone can buy fake badges online. This is harassment. Agent Rodriguez stepped forward, his voice carrying federal authority. Mr. Sterling, would you like us to verify Agent Johnson's credentials through FBI headquarters? I can have Deputy Director Morrison on the line in 30 seconds. Do it! Sterling shouted desperately. Prove this isn't elaborate fraud! Agent Williams pulled out his encrypted FBI phone and dialed a number that connected directly to federal headquarters. The call went on speaker, filling the lobby with the sound of federal verification. FBI Deputy Director Morrison's office. This is Agent Williams, badge number 7731. requesting identity verification for Agent Amara Johnson, badge number 4455. Stand by. 30 seconds of digital silence felt like 30 years. Agent Johnson verified. Senior Special Agent, Financial Crimes Division, currently assigned to Operation Equal Access, a multi-state investigation into hospitality industry discrimination. Agent Johnson has full federal authority for this investigation. Sterling's legs nearly buckled. The crowd of supporters began stepping away from him like he'd contracted a contagious disease. Agent Rodriguez addressed the watching crowd with federal precision. Ladies and gentlemen, filing false reports against federal agents is a serious federal crime. Mr. Sterling has potentially committed multiple felonies in the past 20 minutes. Amara opened her laptop, the same device Sterling had dismissed as homeless desperation, and connected to FBI servers through encrypted channels. Data filled the screen with the precision of federal investigation. Mr. Sterling, for the past 18 months, the FBI Financial Crimes Division has been investigating systematic discrimination at Grand Meridian hotels. Your establishment has been flagged for suspicious patterns of service denial, overcharging, and civil rights violations, specifically targeting minorities. The live stream comments shifted from celebration to shock. 18 months of investigation. She's been watching them. They're so fucked. FBI doesn't play. Sterling's voice rose to near hysteria. You can't prove discrimination. Those people didn't belong here. Look at how she's dressed. Any reasonable person would... Mr. Sterling, Agent Williams interrupted with ice-cold federal authority. Are you stating for the record that appearance-based service denial is your official hotel policy? The trap snapped shut with audible precision. Walsh, the Stanford MBA hotel manager, finally found her voice. Mr. Sterling, perhaps we should contact corporate legal before... Shut up, Jennifer! Sterling spun toward her, desperation making him reckless. This is entrapment. Federal harassment. She was deliberately dressed like a homeless person. Amara's slight smile returned. Mr. Sterling, I was dressed exactly like myself, a federal agent conducting an undercover investigation. Your assumptions about my clothing, my appearance, and my right to exist in public spaces are precisely why the FBI Civil Rights Division flagged your establishment. Agent Rodriguez consulted his federal handbook. Sir, you've now committed the following federal crimes in the presence of federal agents: filing false FBI reports, obstruction of a federal investigation, civil rights violations, and assault on a federal officer. Assault? Sterling's voice cracked completely. I never touched her. You kicked Agent Johnson's briefcase, scattering federal documents and potentially destroying evidence. That constitutes assault on a federal agent. The crowd that had cheered Sterling 20 minutes earlier now pressed against walls, desperate to distance themselves from federal crimes. Phones that had recorded Sterling's moral victory now captured his complete destruction. Luxury Life Manhattan whispered to her audience of 12,000 viewers, Guys, I think we just witnessed the biggest plot twist in internet history. This man called the FBI to arrest him, and it's all on camera. Security guard Rodriguez approached the federal agents with obvious relief. 20 years of cop instincts had been screaming warnings, and now everything made sense. Agent Johnson, he said respectfully, I want to state for the record that Mr. Sterling's behavior felt wrong from the beginning. Hotel security had no issues with your presence. Amara nodded in acknowledgement. Thank you, Rodriguez. Your instincts were correct. Sterling made one final desperate attempt at control. This is harassment. I'm calling my lawyers. I'm calling the board. I'm calling... Mr. Sterling, Amara interrupted with quiet federal authority, you're welcome to call anyone you'd like. However, there's something else you should know about why the FBI is here today. Agent Williams stepped closer, federal authority radiating from every word. Sir, this investigation involves potential federal charges that could result in 25 years in federal prison and personal asset forfeiture in excess of $50 million. The lobby fell silent, except for the sound of Sterling's world collapsing in real time. 4:15 p.m. Everything had changed. Agent Williams consulted his federal case file with the precision of a surgeon reviewing medical charts. Mr. Sterling, before we discuss potential charges, Agent Johnson would like to present the scope of our 18-month investigation. Amara opened her FBI laptop and connected to the lobby's presentation system. Sterling had installed the state-of-the-art display to impress corporate clients. Now it would showcase his destruction in high-definition detail. Data cascaded across the screen with federal precision. Grand Meridian Hotels, financial analysis. Annual revenue, $2.347 billion. Sterling's division contribution, 31%, $727.6 million. Average daily room rate, $485 occupancy rate, 78.3% net profit margin, 12.4%, $291.2 million annually. Sterling stared at his own corporate numbers displayed like evidence in a federal courtroom. How did you obtain confidential financial data? Agent Rodriguez stepped forward with federal authority. Mr. Sterling, FBI Financial Crimes Division has subpoena power for suspected civil rights violations. We've been monitoring your establishment's discriminatory pricing patterns for 18 months. The screen shifted to devastating specificity. Discriminatory pricing analysis. White customers' average charge, $485 per night. Black customers' average charge, $687 per night. Hispanic customers' average charge, $643 per night. Asian customers' average charge, $598 per night. Additional fees imposed on minorities, 73% higher. Room upgrade denials for minorities, 89% rate. This is impossible. Sterling's voice cracked with desperate denial. We don't track customer races. This data is fabricated. Amara's fingers moved across her laptop with federal efficiency. Mr. Sterling, facial recognition software combined with payment processing data creates remarkably accurate demographic analysis. FBI Tech Division specializes in this type of pattern recognition. The mathematical precision was devastating. Federal violations calculation. Documented incidents of discrimination, 847 cases. Federal penalty per incident, $55,000. Total potential fines, $46,585,000. Sterling's personal liability, $23,292,500. Criminal charges. Potential, 25 years federal prison. Sterling's expensive suit began showing sweat stains despite the lobby's perfect climate control. You can't prove intent. Price variations happen for legitimate business reasons. Agent Williams pulled out his federal handbook, flipping to relevant statutes with practiced precision. Mr. Sterling, under Title II of the Civil Rights Act and federal housing discrimination statutes, intent is not required. Pattern evidence is sufficient for federal prosecution. The lobby crowd had grown to over 50 people, phones recording every moment for social media posterity. At Luxury Life Manhattan's live stream had exploded to 15,000 viewers, comments flowing like digital rapids. FBI brought receipts. Federal investigation is no joke. They have everything. Sterling is finished. Amara advanced to the next screen with federal methodicality. Personal asset analysis, Marcus Sterling. Primary residence, $4.7 million, Manhattan penthouse. Secondary properties, $8.2 million, Hamptons Aspen. Investment portfolio, $12.8 million. Grand Meridian stock options, $23.4 million. Luxury assets, $3.2 million. Cars, art, jewelry. Total net worth, $52.3 million. Under federal asset forfeiture laws, Agent Rodriguez explained to the watching crowd, proceeds from civil rights violations can be seized by the federal government. Mr. Sterling's entire net worth is potentially subject to forfeiture. Sterling's legs nearly buckled. He grabbed a marble pillar for support. his carefully cultivated corporate image crumbling in real time. "This is harassment, government overreach. I'm calling my lawyers immediately." "Please do," Amara said with quiet federal authority. "However, your legal team should know that the FBI has documented evidence of your discriminatory statements from today, witnessed by federal agents and recorded by dozens of civilians." The screen displayed Sterling's own words with timestamp precision. Sterling's discriminatory statements. Today, 3:47 p.m. Remove this homeless woman before she contaminates our lobby. 3:52 p.m. Those people don't belong here. 4:04 p.m. Some people think rules don't apply to them. 4:06 p.m. Obviously homeless, clearly unstable. 4:12 p.m. Those people didn't belong here anyway. Each quote appeared with audio verification and multiple camera angles from witness phones. The federal case was airtight. Agent Williams addressed the crowd with federal precision. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've witnessed federal crimes in progress. Your recorded evidence will be preserved for federal prosecution." Hotel manager Walsh finally found courage to speak, her Stanford MBA calculating damage control. Agent Johnson, Grand Meridian Corporate Headquarters, was not aware of any discriminatory policies. This appears to be isolated to Mr. Sterling's individual actions. Sterling spun toward her with desperate fury. "Jennifer, don't you dare throw me under the bus. You implemented these policies too." "Mr. Sterling," Walsh stepped away from him visibly, "I followed pricing guidelines you established. If those guidelines were discriminatory, that's your responsibility, not mine." The federal trap tightened with corporate precision. Amara's phone rang with the distinctive tone reserved for FBI leadership. She answered the speaker, filling the lobby with federal authority. "Agent Johnson, this is Deputy Director Morrison. I'm seeing reports of a situation requiring federal intervention." "Sir, Operation Equal Access has reached a critical phase. We have the primary target in federal custody and comprehensive evidence of systematic civil rights violations." "Excellent work, Agent Johnson. What's your recommendation for resolution?" Sterling found his voice in desperation. "This is harassment. I demand to speak with FBI leadership. This agent is conducting illegal entrapment." Deputy Director Morrison's voice carried decades of federal authority. "Mr. Sterling, Agent Johnson operates under my direct authorization. Are you claiming federal agents are conducting illegal activities?" The question hung in the air like a noose. Accusing FBI leadership of illegal conduct was federal crime territory. No. I'm saying this investigation is harassment based on appearance assumptions." "Mr. Sterling," Morrison's voice cut through static with federal precision, "Agent Johnson's appearance was irrelevant to your discriminatory actions. Federal law protects all citizens regardless of clothing, economic status, or race." Amara consulted her federal case file with surgical precision. "Mr. Sterling, FBI offers you 3 options for resolution. Option 1, full federal cooperation, complete admission of discriminatory practices, full restitution to all 847 identified victims, implementation of federal monitoring systems, personal fine of $5 million, resignation from all Grand Meridian positions. Option 2, limited federal cooperation, partial admission with corporate policy changes, restitution to documented victims only, federal oversight for 24 months, personal fine of $15 million, demotion with federal monitoring. Option 3, federal prosecution, 25 years, federal prison sentence, $52.3 million asset forfeiture, federal civil rights violation conviction, permanent hospitality industry ban, congressional testimony requirement. The mathematical precision was terrifying. Sterling had built his career on numbers, and these numbers spelled complete destruction. Agent Rodriguez stepped forward with federal authority. "Sir, you have 60 seconds to choose. FBI doesn't negotiate extensively with civil rights violators." The live stream audience held collective breath. 16,000 viewers watching federal justice in real time. Sterling's phone buzzed frantically. Board members, lawyers, crisis management teams. His corporate world was collapsing faster than controlled demolition. "I need time to consult lawyers," he stammered desperately. "Mr. Sterling," Amara's voice carried quiet federal power, "you've had 18 months while the FBI collected evidence. Federal jurisdiction operates on federal timelines, not corporate convenience." Agent Williams checked his federal chronometer. 30 seconds remaining, sir." The crowd pressed closer, phones recording Sterling's complete corporate destruction. This was internet history, a CEO's discriminatory empire crumbling in real-time federal justice. Sterling looked around desperately for support, allies, and escape routes. He found only hostile witnesses, federal agents, and recording devices documenting his fall from corporate grace. His expensive watch ticked toward federal consequences. 10 seconds, Mr. Sterling," Agent Rodriguez announced with federal precision. Sterling's voice cracked completely. I choose option 1, full cooperation." The lobby erupted with digital celebration. Federal justice had prevailed in high-definition detail. Amara closed her laptop with federal finality. "Mr. Sterling, the FBI will process your cooperation agreement. However, there's one final matter you should understand about today's events." She looked directly into his eyes with federal authority that made boardrooms tremble. "This investigation extends far beyond one hotel. Grand Meridian corporate headquarters is about to receive federal subpoenas for system-wide discrimination analysis." Sterling's world didn't just collapse, it vaporized completely. 4:23 p.m. Federal justice was just beginning. Amara's encrypted FBI phone rang with the distinctive tone reserved for federal emergency communications. She answered with professional precision while maintaining eye contact with Sterling's defeated form. "Agent Johnson." "This is FBI Director Harrison calling from Washington." "Agent Johnson, I'm watching live stream coverage of your operation. Outstanding federal work under difficult circumstances." The call went on speaker, filling the lobby with the highest level of federal authority. 17,000 live stream viewers suddenly found themselves connected to FBI headquarters in real time. "Thank you, Director. Operation Equal Access has achieved primary objectives with comprehensive evidence collection." "Agent Johnson, I'm authorizing immediate implementation of federal remediation protocols. Grand Meridian hotels will serve as a national model for civil rights compliance in the hospitality industry." Sterling's remaining corporate allies began distancing themselves with visible panic. Hotel manager Walsh stepped away from him like he carried contagious federal liability. Director Harrison's voice carried decades of federal authority. "Mr. Sterling, you've chosen full cooperation. The FBI appreciates your decision to accept responsibility rather than forcing expensive federal prosecution." Sterling could barely form words. "Director, yes, full cooperation." "Excellent. Agent Johnson will oversee immediate implementation of federal requirements. Any deviation from agreed protocols will result in automatic federal prosecution." The line disconnected, leaving Sterling alone with the weight of federal consequences. Amara opened a new file on her FBI laptop with systematic precision. The lobby display screen showed federal requirements with mathematical clarity. Immediate federal compliance requirements. Phase 1, Executive Actions, 24 hours. Sterling's immediate resignation from all Grand Meridian positions. Public federal apology admitting discriminatory practices. $5 million, personal fine deposited to Federal Restitution Fund. Surrender of all Grand Meridian access cards and corporate assets. Federal monitoring device installation for 24-month compliance period. Phase 2, Corporate Restructuring, 72 hours. New CEO appointment, subject to FBI approval. Federal Civil Rights Officer installation at executive level. Complete staff retraining using FBI-approved curriculum. Implementation of federal pricing transparency system. Monthly federal audits for minimum 36 months. Phase 3. Victim restitution, 30 days. Full refunds to all 847 documented discrimination victims. Additional compensatory damages averaging $12,500 per victim. Federal Victim Assistance Fund establishment, $15 million. Public database of affected customers for ongoing support. Free legal services funded by Grand Meridian for civil lawsuits. Agent Williams approached Sterling with federal documentation requiring immediate signature. Sir, these documents formalize your cooperation agreement with federal authorities. Sterling's hands trembled as he reviewed pages of federal requirements. His corporate empire, built over 20 years, was being dismantled with surgical precision. Agent Johnson, Walsh interrupted carefully. Grand Meridian Corporate Headquarters is prepared to exceed federal requirements for compliance. Amara nodded acknowledgement while typing federal updates. Ms. Walsh, corporate cooperation will be evaluated separately. Mr. Sterling's personal violations require individual accountability. The lobby crowd watched with fascination as federal justice operated with clockwork efficiency. Phones captured every signature, every federal requirement, every moment of Sterling's corporate destruction. At Luxury Life. Manhattan whispered to 18,000 viewers, "Guys, we're literally watching the federal government dismantle a CEO's entire life in real time. This is unprecedented." Agent Rodriguez consulted his federal enforcement manual. Mr. Sterling, you have 48 hours to vacate your corporate office and surrender all company property. Federal marshals will oversee the transition. Sterling's voice cracked completely. What about my staff? My projects? 20 years of work? Sir, Amara's tone carried federal finality. Discrimination has consequences. Federal law prioritizes victims' rights over perpetrators' convenience. The screen displayed immediate corporate changes with federal precision. Grand Meridian leadership transition. Sterling, immediate termination for federal violations. Walsh, probationary status pending federal review. Rodriguez, security, promoted to interim safety officer, federal compliance officer, installation within 72 hours. New CEO, subject to FBI background investigation. Security guard Rodriguez stepped forward with obvious relief. Agent Johnson, I want to formally report that Mr. Sterling ignored multiple staff concerns about discriminatory policies over the past 18 months. 3 hotel employees emerged from the crowd, emboldened by federal protection. Front desk supervisor Maria Santos. Agent Johnson, Mr. Sterling ordered us to charge minorities higher rates and deny room upgrades. We were afraid to report it. Housekeeping manager Janet Kim. He made racist comments about guests regularly. We documented incidents but had no safe way to report them. Concierge David Thompson. Federal whistleblower protection means we can finally tell the truth about what's been happening here. Amara made federal notes with systematic precision. Your testimonies will be included in the federal case file. FBI protects employee whistleblowers under federal statute. Sterling watched his former employees testify against him with growing horror. The corporate loyalty he'd assumed was evaporating under federal pressure. Agent Williams consulted his federal chronometer. Mr. Sterling, you have 6 hours to complete your public federal apology. The FBI Communications Department will review all statements before release. What exactly am I supposed to say? Sterling's voice carried desperate confusion. Amara provided federal guidance with clinical precision. Admit discriminatory practices, accept full responsibility, apologize to victims, commit to personal accountability, and acknowledge federal authority in civil rights enforcement. The required statement appeared on screen with federal specificity. Required public statement, Marcus Sterling. I, Marcus Sterling, admit to systematic discrimination against minority customers at Grand Meridian hotels. For 18 months, I implemented policies that violated federal civil rights laws. I charged minorities higher rates, denied equal services, and created hostile environments based on race and appearance. I take full responsibility for these federal violations. I apologize unreservedly to the 847 documented victims and their families. My actions were wrong, illegal, and contrary to American values. I accept federal consequences, including resignation, financial penalties, and ongoing federal monitoring. I commit to personal accountability and support FBI efforts to ensure equal treatment for all Americans. Federal civil rights laws exist to protect all citizens. I failed to uphold these laws and deeply regret the harm I caused. Sterling stared at his corporate obituary displayed in high-definition federal precision. Every word was accurate, devastating, and legally binding. Once you sign this statement, Agent Rodriguez explained with federal authority, it becomes part of permanent federal records and can be used in future legal proceedings. The live stream audience watched Sterling's complete corporate destruction with digital fascination. This was more than viral content. This was federal accountability in real time. Sterling's phone buzzed frantically with calls from board members, lawyers, and crisis management teams. His corporate network was abandoning him faster than sinking ship evacuation. "Sign here, Mr. Sterling." Agent Williams indicated federal signature lines with professional precision. Sterling's signature looked like a dying person's final act. Each letter marked the end of his corporate existence. Amara closed the federal case file with systematic finality. "Mr. Sterling, FBI considers this matter resolved pending your complete compliance with federal requirements. Any deviation will result in immediate federal prosecution." She addressed the lobby crowd with federal authority. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've witnessed federal civil rights enforcement in action. This case demonstrates that discrimination has serious federal consequences regardless of wealth, status, or corporate position." The crowd began dispersing, phones still recording, conversations buzzing with the magnitude of what they'd witnessed. Agent Williams and Agent Rodriguez flanked Sterling as he gathered his personal belongings, wallet, keys, phone, everything else belonged to federal evidence or corporate asset forfeiture. "Agent Johnson," Sterling's voice carried broken desperation. "What happens to me now?" Amara looked at him with federal precision that contained no malice, only professional accountability. "Mr. Sterling, you learn to live with the consequences of discrimination. Federal monitoring will ensure you never forget what happened here today." Sterling walked toward the lobby exit, escorted by federal agents, his 20-year corporate empire reduced to personal belongings that fit in a small cardboard box. The Grand Meridian lobby returned to afternoon quiet, but everything had changed forever. Federal justice had prevailed. 4:45 p.m. A new era of accountability had begun. 6 months later, the Grand Meridian lobby gleamed with more than marble polish. It radiated the quiet dignity of federal accountability. A bronze plaque near the reception desk read, "Equal treatment guaranteed. Federal civil rights compliance verified." Amara Johnson stood in the same spot where Sterling had kicked her briefcase, now wearing her FBI dress uniform for a federal civil rights conference. The transformation was complete, systematic, and irreversible. The numbers told the story with mathematical precision. Operation Equal Access. Final results. Total victims compensated, 847 individuals. Financial restitution distributed, $23.7 million. Federal policy changes implemented. 127 hotels nationwide. Criminal convictions secured. 12 executives. Civil rights training programs established. 50 states. Federal monitoring systems installed. 847 properties Agent Williams approached with federal updates that would reshape hospitality industry standards permanently. Agent Johnson, congressional testimony scheduled for next Tuesday. The House Civil Rights Subcommittee wants your personal account of discriminatory practices in corporate America. The ripple effects had exceeded FBI projections. Sterling's public destruction had triggered federal investigations nationwide, exposing systematic discrimination across multiple industries. Sterling's final consequences: federal conviction, civil rights violations, obstruction of justice, prison sentence, 18 months, federal minimum security, financial penalties, $5.2 million personal fines. Asset forfeiture, $12.8 million seized for victim compensation. Professional licenses, permanently revoked in hospitality industry. Federal monitoring, lifetime civil rights compliance tracking. The former CEO now worked part-time at a community nonprofit. His federal monitoring ankle bracelet a constant reminder that discrimination carries permanent consequences. But Sterling's destruction was only the beginning. National legislative impact. Equal Access Hospitality Act passed both houses of Congress. Federal funding allocated $500 million for discrimination monitoring. FBI Civil Rights Division expanded. 200 additional agents. Mandatory federal training, all hospitality workers, nationwide. Federal hotline established, 1-800-Civil Rights. Annual federal audits, required for all major hotel chains. At Luxury Life Manhattan, now with 2.3 million followers, had transformed from fashion blogger to civil rights advocate. Her live stream of Sterling's federal destruction had become internet legend, viewed over 50 million times across all platforms. 2 years ago, I filmed what I thought was justice, she said in her latest video. I didn't understand I was documenting federal civil rights enforcement that would change everything. The hotel staff had flourished under federal oversight. Maria Santos was promoted to general manager. Janet Kim headed the new federal compliance department. David Thompson trained hospitality workers nationwide in civil rights protocols. Security guard Rodriguez became FBI consultant, helping design federal monitoring systems that prevented discrimination before it occurred. Agent Johnson taught us that real security means protecting everyone's civil rights, he explained to congressional investigators. Federal oversight made us better at our jobs. Amara's federal recognition had exceeded career expectations. Agent Johnson's achievements, promoted, FBI Deputy Director, Civil Rights Division. Federal commendations, Presidential Award for Civil Rights Excellence. Speaking engagements, 127 universities, law schools, federal agencies. Published research, undercover federal investigation techniques, training programs, FBI Academy curriculum development. Congressional testimony, 12 appearances on civil rights enforcement. The Grand Meridian case had become a federal law enforcement legend, studied in FBI academies worldwide as a perfect example of undercover civil rights investigation. But the deeper transformation was cultural, not just legal. Societal impact. Measurement. Federal discrimination reports increased. 340% nationwide corporate policy changes. 2,147 companies voluntarily implemented bias training. Federal prosecutions, 89 civil rights cases filed using Sterling precedent. Educational initiatives. 12,000 schools added civil rights curriculum. Media coverage. 50,000 news articles on appearance-based discrimination. Social media awareness. Appearance. Discrimination reached 50 million people. Amara addressed the lobby crowd during the federal conference, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had transformed corporate America. 6 months ago, a CEO kicked my briefcase across this marble floor because he assumed my appearance determined my worth. Today, federal law ensures that assumption is a criminal act. The audience hotel executives, federal agents, civil rights lawyers, listened with respectful attention to the woman who'd changed their industry permanently. Real change doesn't come from anger or retaliation. It comes from intelligence, patience, and absolute commitment to federal civil rights law. When we respond to discrimination with federal accountability, we transform systems, not just situations. She looked directly into news cameras broadcasting live to federal agencies nationwide. If you've experienced discrimination based on appearance, economic status, race, or any protected category, understand this. Federal law protects you. The FBI investigates discrimination seriously. Your civil rights matter. Call to action. Federal participation. Here's what every American can do right now. Document everything. Photos, videos, witness statements. Federal cases require evidence. Report immediately. FBI Civil Rights Division 1-800-CIVIL RIGHTS. Federal agents respond to discrimination. Know your rights. Federal law prohibits appearance-based discrimination in public accommodations. Share your story. Congressional testimony, social media advocacy, community organizing. Federal policy changes when citizens demand accountability. Support federal enforcement. Contact representatives. Vote for civil rights funding. Volunteer with advocacy organizations. Amara's final words carried federal authority that had transformed a nation's understanding of civil rights. Marcus Sterling thought federal badges could be faked, federal authority could be dismissed, and federal agents could be intimidated by corporate power. He learned that federal civil rights enforcement is real, permanent, and non-negotiable. The live stream reached 100,000 viewers across federal agencies, universities, and advocacy organizations. Remember, you don't need expensive clothes, corporate titles, or social status to demand dignity. You need courage, federal law, and the unshakable belief that every American deserves equal treatment. Amara Johnson walked into this lobby as a target of discrimination and walked out as an agent of federal change. Her federal badge proved that intelligence and determination can topple any system built on prejudice. Share this story. Comment on your experiences with discrimination. Subscribe for more federal civil rights victories. Federal justice works when citizens demand accountability. The Grand Meridian lobby returned to quiet afternoon service, but America had changed forever. Federal civil rights enforcement had become personal, immediate, and unstoppable.